Hello everyone and welcome back to your favorite channel at Cosmic Ways. Please stay till the end because I'm going to be talking about some very eventful transits that are happening in the next few weeks. How can we prepare ourselves better, and how do we get prepared also for some of the upcoming transits that are happening and they're going to change our lives at a very deep and personal level, and how to be aware of some of these alignments or misalignments if you're not prepared for it, and take the most advantage of what the universe is graphing out for us. So we are going to be talking a little bit about the North Node and the South Node. The North Node, which is, as I mentioned, a very karmic planet, and it's transiting through the sign of Aquarius right now, but it's very soon, within the next few months, going to change its sign into the sign of Capricorn. Where that's going to take us, as well as the South Node, which is transiting through the sign of leaders and kings in the sign of Leo, and it's soon going to have a planetary war with some of the planets, and then it's going to finally transit into the sign of Cancer. So we're living through a massive astrological transition. Not only, as I mentioned, the North Node or Rahu and the South Node, which is Ketu, they're preparing for this final act in Aquarius and the Leo axis, but we are also approaching an extraordinary planetary war, which is called Rahu in the sign of Leo, and that's kind of upcoming within the next few weeks and months. So in this expanded deep dive, we're going to break down why some of Jupiter's exaltation transits in Ashlesha Nakshatra are kind of feeling blocked or intense for so many. The upcoming fiery collision in Leo between Mars, the South Node, the Sun, and Jupiter, and the shift of the North Node Rahu into Capricorn and Ketu into Cancer in late November. So this historical weight of Rahu joining Pluto in Capricorn, and what happened the last time this cosmic shadow energy met in the sign of structure. So drop your ascendant and your moon sign in the comments below. Hit subscribe please, and unlock what's really happening behind the scenes in your chart and in the world. So as I mentioned, why is Jupiter's exaltation energy feeling not that benefic? Why is it feeling blocked? And the reason is combustion of Jupiter, and the fact that Jupiter has been facing a very transformative planet, which is Pluto. So let's start with the major question I've been getting. If Jupiter was transiting through its most exalted sign of Cancer, and specifically through the very nurturing constellation of Pushya in the zodiac, why didn't I feel this full flood of blessings? And as I mentioned, here is the hidden cosmic reality, the combustion factor, and that is, for a large part of its transit through Cancer, Jupiter was actually combust, and what that means is it was sitting too close to the Sun. And when an expansive planet like Jupiter goes combust, its outer light is temporarily blinded by the solar flare. So the wisdom is still there, but you can't easily access or feel its physical expressions. And then we get into something more intense, which is the Pluto opposition. So at the same time that Jupiter was directly opposed by Pluto, and that's the planet of the underworld, of transformations, of deep psychological purging and structural power. So instead of a smooth, gentle blanket of comfort, Pushya Nakshatra was forced to act like a cosmic pressure washer. Pluto brought up everything hidden beneath the surface: unresolved grief, ancestral wounds, financial anxieties, and even underlying control dynamics that have been existing throughout our lives, but we've never really confronted them. It was a time of deep underground healing, but it certainly didn't feel easy, or it didn't feel peaceful. And then I want to go a little bit into the Magha Nakshatra. And the Magha Nakshatra is a constellation which occurs in Leo, and its symbol is the royal throne. And as we process that internal purification, the outer world is undergoing its own massive reset through the South Node in Magha Nakshatra. Magha is a star of kings, of royalty, ancestral authority, and world leaders. So the South Node here acts as a severing blade. It's cutting away egos and outdated power titles. So following this recent eclipse cycle that we just had, the upcoming late August lunar eclipse, it acts as a catalyst. So the eclipses are cosmic wildcards that expose what's hidden and force fast tracking of karmic endings and karmic results. So with the South Node sitting in the star of leadership, this eclipse window triggers. And what happens? High-profile political figures, corporate CEOs, and public icons unexpectedly are forced to step down. So this sudden collapse of top-down authority structures that relied on image rather than structure are all destroyed. A collective awakening happens of people that were relying blindly on leaders that no longer worked. So this isn't just news headlines in your personal lives. Wherever Leo falls in your chart, any false pride or ego-driven role that you've been holding on to is kind of reaching its expiration date and its expiration stage. So let's talk finally about some of the upcoming planetary transits that are going to have a very, very deep impact on us. And basically what that involves is a very intense window before the nodes finally shift into their respective signs of Capricorn and of Cancer, as I mentioned earlier. And it's the planetary war that's going to happen before, and a fiery conjunction in Leo. So Leo is actually a sign ruled by the sun. It's about identity, sovereignty, leadership, and right before the nodes pack up their bags in late November, as I mentioned, Mars enters Leo and collides with the South Node or Ketu. And Mars represents fire, drive, impulse. Ketu represents sharp severance in past life karma. So when Mars and Ketu, or the South Node, they meet in a fiery sign of Leo, it creates an explosive atmosphere, sudden anger, power vacuums, sharp catharsis, and endings. And then comes along Jupiter. So Jupiter joins the scene, and it moves out of Cancer briefly and it enters Leo in this fiery environment. Normally, Jupiter is a benefic planet, but when an expanding energy like Jupiter enters an already fiery sign of Leo, hosting Mars in the South Node and the Sun, and they're all in a position of war, it adds fuel to the fire. It doesn't calm the flame down immediately. It actually expands it. It exposes the absolute truth and magnifies the conflict and forces a total but complete clearing of the air. Think of it like a very controlled forest burn. This heat is intense, but it's the only way to clear out the toxic undergrowth so that really healthy growth can actually happen and can sustain in our lives. So brace yourself for this window. Don't be afraid. Don't fight the catharsis. Let down your old structures and burn them away so that, as I mentioned before, something beautiful is born. It's not always easy, but the universe is going to take us all to that place where we have to burn some false part of ourselves and create something which is more authentic and real lasting. So in late November, within this fiery storm, Rahu enters Capricorn and Ketu enters Cancer, and this moves us away from public ego battles and grounds us into the fundamental Cancer Capricorn axis. What does the South Node or Ketu mean in Cancer? What is it doing there? And it's a path of self-healing. Cancer is ruled by the moon. It represents mother, emotional attachment, family roots, and actually the masses. So the South Node or Ketu here cuts away toxic emotional dependency, codependency, and tribal mob mentality. It forces us to step away from public outrage and go inward to heal our emotional roots. What's the lesson here? Stop searching for external comfort and build your own emotional sovereignty. Rahu, or the North Node in Capricorn, meanwhile, is building structures that last. So the last Capricorn in Saturn's pragmatic sign of the last transit of the North Node in the sign of Capricorn, it demands that real world discipline, strategic planning, and structural integrity come into our lives. It favors those who put down their phones, stop chasing superficial fame, and build tangible systems, careers, and financial safety nets. To add kind of fuel to this fire, the North Node is also going to meet Pluto when it enters into Capricorn. And historically, this has been a very, very transformative time, whether we like it or not. So there, as I mentioned, the last layer of complexity in all of this is the North Node transiting through Capricorn, and it will align directly with Pluto. Pluto is a planet of destruction, of power dynamics, deep subterranean transformation, and Rahu, or the North Node, is a planet of amplification, future trends, and rapid evolution. So when the North Node and Pluto, they cross paths in Capricorn, the sign of governments, of banking, of global infrastructure, it triggers massive institutional transformations. So astrologically and historically, North Node, Rahu, and Pluto alignments in earth signs mark periods where there is immense cleaning of the corrupt financial system and monopolies are breaking down and are forcibly restructured. Historical shifts in global power occur, similar to the major economic realignments of 2008 and 2009 and the late 1990s geopolitical shifts. So the collective is being forced to innovate out of necessity, creating entirely new economic tools and decentralized systems. So this alignment signals that the world isn't just changing the mood, it's completely rebuilding its foundational bedrock. So let's talk a little bit more about the foundational journey. So this alignment signals that the world isn't just changing its mood, it's completely rebuilding its foundational bedrock. So what are we going to do about these alignments that are going to be coming up surely and slowly into our worlds? The journey ahead calls for courage, for emotional maturity, and absolute practical grounding. Allow the planetary war in Leo to clear out what no longer belongs in your life. Stop holding on to outdated titles or emotional baggage. As the nodes enter Capricorn and Cancer, anchor into self-healing and start laying down those building blocks of everyday habits that will build your long-term future and the long-term you. What house does Leo and Capricorn rule in your chart? Comment on your ascendant sign below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for my upcoming sign by sign transit series. Thank you so much for watching, and please stay grounded, stay prepared, and above all,